This is the pre-application workshop for the City of Boise's Public Services Program. This workshop is meant to inform potential applicants about the process, regulations, and guidelines for the program. We're going to provide an overview of the program, including these pieces, which will follow the timeline of an application through award period. Our goal is to condense all of the information from our program guidelines, which is available on our Public Services webpage, and to provide guidance on the application process. This way, organizations will know what to expect when they are applying for these funds. The Department of Housing and Urban Development provides funding to support housing and community development activities. The City of Boise has historically received an annual allocation for the Community Development Block Grant Program, known as CDBG. This is a flexible program to address a wider range of community development needs. 15% of the city's annual CDBG allocation can be used for the Public Services Program to support nonprofit organizations in the community. This is known as the Public Services Cap. Our annual allocation changes each year, and it is important to note that public service applications and awards are contingent upon this allocation from HUD. As a recipient of these funds, HUD requires us to conduct a couple of planning processes. We develop a 5-year consolidated plan using community feedback and extensive data, which broadly outlines the goals and priorities for the 5 years and guides how federal funds are invested to address community needs. The annual action plan is a summary of the actions and activities that we are implementing each year in order to achieve the goals outlined in our 5-year consolidated plan. As part of each plan, we gather input from the community to help prioritize needs and goals. Any project carried out with CDBG funds must meet one of 3 national objectives, as seen on the left. Our public services generally fall under this first category of benefit low to moderate income persons, meaning that it would benefit persons that are at or below 80% of the area median income, known as AMI. This national objective includes 4 subcategories, and most public services are going to fall under the limited clientele, which means they serve a specific group of low to moderate income clients. An important note here is that 51% of the clients served with CDBG funds must be at or below this 80% AMI level. Recipients of public services grants must be nonprofit organizations. Faith-based organizations may apply as long as they don't require religious engagement from clients as part of the program. Eligible entities must also be in good standing status with the state of Idaho. They must be registered on sam.gov with a unique entity identifier number, and they must not be barred from receiving federal funds. Individuals and for-profit businesses are not eligible to apply for these funds, as well as pass-through entities or entities that are not the primary service provider, engage in discriminatory practices, or, as we mentioned, entities that require religious engagement as part of the program. On the left-hand side, you can see a wide range of activities that are eligible to receive CDBG funding. Activity is the term HUD uses for a program or a service. Some common examples include childcare, case management, emergency housing support in the form of short-term rental payment assistance for permanent housing, security deposits and utility payments, and general or mental health services. On the right-hand side, you'll find a list of ineligible activities. These activities cannot, under any circumstances, receive CDBG funding through the Public Services Program. On this slide, you can see an example of what are called targeted groups. Your activity can aim to serve one or more targeted groups of clients, though you are not limited to only serving these groups. If your activity is serving a targeted group, then the activity must be made available to any Boise resident that is part of that group. For example, services or assistance cannot be isolated to only the tenants of one building. Or, as another example, your activity can serve elderly clients, but it can't only serve elderly clients in one specific senior living facility. A program can also focus on a particular neighborhood that is eligible based on income level and must be made available to all residents of that neighborhood. Eligible costs are costs that we may reimburse using CDBG funds as part of this program. Salaries may be reimbursed for the staff time directly assisting eligible clients. Client assistance may also be an eligible cost, but cannot be paid directly to the clients. For example, if your activity covers rent payments for clients, then the rent amount that is due must be paid to either a property management company or an owner on behalf of your clients. To meet eligibility, clients, also called beneficiaries, of the activity must live in the City of Boise's area of impact. We provide a link to that map in the program guidelines and on our Public Services webpage. At least 51% of the clients that are served by the CDBG funded activity must be at or below 80% of the area median income. The annual gross household income of clients must be verified and documented. Income definitions and the documentation that needs to be collected can be found in 24 CFR section 5603 and 5609. If awarded, organizations will have a pre-program year meeting with the City of Boise team, and in this meeting we will go into more detail about these requirements. HUD also provides an income calculator that helps identify income sources and determine a client's income in the case that your organization does not have one that can be used for these purposes. We also have an income calculation guide available on the website that provides an overview of common sources of income, assets that can be counted, and how to calculate income. On this slide, you can see an example of HUD's income guidelines that are used to determine client eligibility and the area median income category that clients fall under. These guidelines are updated by HUD every year, and city staff makes sure to share the updated guidelines with our public services awardees to ensure that everyone is using the most up-to-date information. Again, this is just an example. Please do not use these numbers for income verification. There are no prior funding requirements for either a new activity or an existing activity that has never been funded with CDBG dollars. In either of these cases, city staff will review the current funding sources of the activity and justification of need as part of the application review. If an agency is requesting continued CDBG funding for the same activity, they may request the same or decreased amount as the most recent prior year. However, if that agency is requesting an increase in CDBG funding for the same activity, then there needs to be a quantifiable increase in the level of the existing service or other justifiable factors that are impacting the continued delivery of that service. For example, factors could include a change in the cost of carrying out the activity, impact of increased funds on the estimated number of clients to be served, addition of service components, and so on. In this case, city staff will assess the justification for the need in increased funding based on the detailed information provided in the application. On this slide, there is a list of cross-cutting federal regulations that apply to all recipients of federal funds. More likely than not, most organizations are already following these requirements. Keep in mind that although an environmental review is a federal requirement, it is an administrative step that our city staff will conduct if you are awarded funds. Organizations receiving an award will also be required to submit a Section 504 self-evaluation, which assesses the accessibility of the organization's program, facility, and services. Here, you can see the general timeline for applications. Our application is open the month of April, and in the same month we hold the pre-application workshop, which is where we are now. From May to June, the applications go through the eligibility review process, which is done by our city staff. And then the Public Services Committee reviews and scores the applications and provides their funding recommendations. July through August is when we send out the preliminary award letters to notify organizations that they were selected for funding and collect additional documents for the upcoming program year. In the month of September, before the beginning of the new program year on October 1, we meet with each organization to answer any questions and review goals and tasks for their activity, and then lastly, we execute the subrecipient agreements. This is a list of documents that need to be submitted along with your application. On the City of Boise's Public Services webpage, you'll find an application checklist that lists these documents, along with descriptions and, if applicable, where to find them. Many of these documents are related to the organization as a whole, and you likely have these available already. Some of the documents on the right-hand side are more specific to the activity or program that you're seeking funding for. For instance, we would only need the job descriptions and resumes for the staff that is carrying out the activity. City of Boise staff will perform an eligibility analysis on all the applications that get submitted. The analysis is a review of all the eligibility criteria that we have covered up to this point to ensure that each proposed activity meets a national objective, is an eligible activity, will use funds on eligible costs, and meets any continued funding requirements. All eligible applications get sent to the Public Services Committee for review, scoring, and funding recommendations. This committee is made up of members of local stakeholder organizations, such as public agencies, hospitals, and advocacy groups, which may change from year to year. These organizations are not eligible to receive funds from the city's Public Services Program. Applications are scored based on this criteria. It is important to make sure that your application provides complete and thorough information, clearly states the details of the proposed activity, what the CDBG funding will be used for under that activity, and how the activity aligns with the city's goals that are outlined in the Consolidated Plan and Annual Action Plan. Bear in mind that activities that serve more than the minimum 51% of low to moderate income clients will be prioritized. Organizations that are chosen for a grant award will be notified with a preliminary award letter, which states the amount of the award and conditions of the commitment, such as the release of funds by HUD, approval from mayor and council, and the environmental review. Organizations that were not chosen for an award will also be notified with a letter that contains a brief explanation for the denial. Organizations can use the information in their denial letters to be better prepared for the next application cycle. The city will meet with each subrecipient organization before the program year to go over their program, activity, expected outcomes, and requirements. The city will prepare a subrecipient agreement which will contain all of the specific activity information and include the costs that we will reimburse, as well as the rules and regulations of the CDBG program and the City of Boise. Agencies that are selected for an award will be required to submit additional documents. The Section 504 self-evaluation is required by any agency that is receiving federal funds, and it is used to review the overall accessibility of an agency's program, facility, and services for applicants, beneficiaries, and employees of that agency. The city offers a Section 504 guide along with a template that must be completed in consultation with an individual with a disability or an organization representing individuals with disabilities. We will confirm the information about the activity budget and fund sources that were provided in the application so that we can add that as an attachment to the subrecipient agreement. Hourly billing rate forms will need to be completed and returned if CDBG funds will be used for salary reimbursement. A lobbying certificate will also need to be signed and returned. If an agency has not received funding from us before, then there are a couple of other documents that will be requested as shown on the right-hand side. Let's talk through the reimbursement process. Awarded CDBG funds cannot be advanced. They are instead provided on a reimbursement basis in the form of a draw request. Draw requests are submitted in the Neighborly platform, which is the same platform that is used to submit an application. Draws are due on the 15th of every month for the prior month billing period. Different documentation is going to be required in your draw depending on the cost that we are reimbursing. We have listed a few examples. If we are reimbursing salaries, then we will need detailed monthly timesheets. For client assistance, we will need a detailed invoice and how the assistance is being calculated and tracked. For rental assistance, we will need the rent ledger and a copy of the check and lease. While you're submitting a draw, you can also provide an update about any staff changes or changes in rate of pay using our city forms. During the program year, beneficiary data will need to be collected and submitted in quarterly reports, which is also done in Neighborly. Quarterly reports are due on the 15th of the month after the end of every quarter. When applying for funds, organizations estimate the number of clients that they expect to serve during the program year. That number is used as the client goal in the subrecipient agreement, and the quarterly reports are used to measure the progress that is being made towards that goal. Clients that are counted towards that total goal must be unique, non-duplicated persons served. And on the right-hand side is a list of the HUD required data that subrecipients must collect from those clients. The city provides a beneficiary data definitions worksheet so that organizations know exactly what information they need to collect. Quarterly reporting periods are also a good opportunity for organizations to submit any technical assistance needs that we can assist with, or to provide updated documents for any staff changes or changes in rate of pay. Staff should make best efforts to collect race and ethnicity information as self-identified by the client. If for some reason this data cannot be collected, categories may be estimated by observation or by using a number proportionate to Boise's population, which is provided in census data that we share with subrecipients. On the right-hand side is a list of the HUD-defined racial categories which must be collected and reported for each client. In addition to quarterly reports, we have 2 reports that are due during different points of the program year. There's a mid-year progress report for the first half of the year, which is due on April 15th. This mid-year report gives organizations and city staff the opportunity to reflect on progress towards goals, challenges that organizations are facing, technical assistance or resource needs, and it's another chance to provide staffing or organizational updates. The final report is due on October 15th, after the end of the program year. This report covers the complete year and focuses on the outcomes of the program, lessons learned, future plans, and organizational updates. This is also an opportunity for organizations to talk about some success stories, which we can share with HUD to show the impact of this funding and to make a case for sustaining these funds. We also look at all of the activity fund sources to make sure that we capture any changes that occurred during the program year. We use this information to show HUD how CDBG funds are being leveraged proportionate to non-federal funds. Over the course of the year, the city will make sure that organizations are complying with regulations and the expectations of the CDBG Public Services Program. We use the information that subrecipients submit in their reports and draws to assist them with any obstacles that they are facing to make sure that they can successfully carry out the activity per the subrecipient agreement. The city may require updated documents during the program year, such as liability insurance, UEI renewed registration, and other documents that expired during the program year. Also, if there were any necessary modifications identified in the Section 504 self-evaluation, then we will ask for an update on that as well. Monitoring is necessary to make sure that the city and its subrecipients are being good stewards of HUD funds. In the beginning of the program year, after subrecipients have been selected, we conduct a risk assessment. This is a quantitative assessment that helps determine the level of monitoring that is going to be required for the program year. Depending on the results of the risk assessment, the city will conduct either a desk review, which is a digital review of the organizational materials, draws, and reports, or an on-site visit, which is a more in-depth in-person review of client files, financial processes, and policies and procedures. Monitoring is a good opportunity for both subrecipients and the city to learn, share resources, and for capacity building. On our webpage, you'll find several helpful resources about our public services program. Our public services program guidelines are a more detailed version of the information that is covered in this workshop. There is also an application required document checklist to help applicants collect all of the documents that they need to apply. All of the forms and templates that we referenced in this workshop are also available on our webpage, along with links to tools like the income guidelines, the city's HUD required plans, like the consolidated plan that is referenced in the application, a subrecipient checklist which goes over the files that the organization should be maintaining for the program, and a guide for subrecipients' internal controls and administrative systems. Thank you for attending this workshop. We hope this was helpful as you decide whether to start or complete the application process. If you have any questions, please reach out to our team by using the contact form on our Public Services webpage.